Time to pull up a chair and talk some Thursday night football. I am your host, JJ Wenner, and this is the Dynasty Podcast. With me, as always, are my co-hosts, Jameson Hutchison and Joseph Harlow. All right, Riders, lock in. We are previewing Washington at Green Bay. Tonight, we dive into the matchups, lines, player props, and more. Let's ride.
Before we begin, don't forget to listen to all of our podcasts and watch all of our shows here at Fantasy in Frames. Head over to fantasyinframes.com for all of the latest articles and rankings covering a wide range of topics in the world of fantasy football.
All right, let's kick off, gentlemen, by talking about our likes and dislikes from last week. So what is one thing that made you super happy? What is the one thing that you wanted to kick into the third circle of hell? Joe, you can go first.
So I debated on going between IDP and offense here, but we'll stick with offense for now. Jackson Smith-Njigba, 13 targets on 23 passing attempts by Sam Darnold. Now, obviously, he's not going to keep up a 56% target share. That's just not realistic. However, Sam Darnold knowing where his bread was buttered is still good. We thought last year with almost in New Orleans, Minnesota could have been an aberration, but there he fed Justin Jefferson. Njigba is a similar mold of player. He's obviously not the same talent, but similar slot heavier usage who can play some X as well. But seeing him almost force the ball to his top guy is something we really do want to see for fantasy. I'm very happy with that. Njigba finished with the sixth best yards per route run amongst all players, which includes three of the guys ahead of him had one target. So Xavier Smith, Jackson Haas, and Jack Besh, congrats to you guys for having
good job, Jackson
yards per route run over 10. But yeah, it was Zay Flowers and Puka Nacua were the only real receiving targets who had a higher yards per route run than Njigba. Again, 5.39. That's not sustainable. I think Puka led the league last year with 3.2 or something while missing 6-7 games. So he'll probably fall closer to 2.4 or something, but that's still a great number, something that is going to keep him as a borderline wide receiver 1 or a high end 2, where we thought he could fall well below that with Sam Darnold in there.
I know I was hoping that Tony Horton. Tory would get some I thought it was the coffee guy would get some receptions there, but it was like a one-man show.
It was.
What did you not like?
The Texans offensive line, they're so bad. Looking at their PFF grades, only one of their starters had a grade over 65.3, and that was Titus Howard, who's their right guard, and he was at 72, which is still, it's fine. But Ariante Ursary and Laken Tomlinson, their new guards, and Cam Robinson all got beat like drums. Their center, they split time between two centers who both were average at absolute best. Yes, the Rams have one of the best defensive lines in the league, but that's concerning. The hope, and a lot of my hope, was that Laramie Tunsil, who is on the downturn of his career and is a locker room cancer from all reports out of Houston, Miami before that, was hoping that would really fix things or kind of vibe shift it up. But after 1 week, and maybe it's just simply the fact that they did play the Rams, who might be top 3 defensive line on the edge and interior, but it scares me a little bit for Stroud. Nico Collins, I think, will pick it up, but you have to give Stroud at least 2 seconds to make a decision. Got to be a little better than that.
We were hoping it might be addition by subtraction, but it looks like it was just subtraction by subtraction on that offensive line. JMO,
my
likes and dislikes.
My like here is Tyler Warren wasting no time being the center point of the Colts offense. She talked about all summer this could be in the range of possibilities. We talked about Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, and everybody got really excited about Josh Downs. But, I mean, he starts off his rookie campaign with 7 catches and 76 yards on 9 targets. He had a schemed-up rush. I mean, he had a schemed-up play out of the backfield. So it just I mean, we've seen this before in Shane Steichen's offenses. He will work around the tight end. They spent a first-round draft pick on him. And just fantasy-wise, if this production ends up the way it is, the usage, we've spent so many years with tight end just throwing dart throws if you don't get Brock Bowers or Trey McBride. I really do think that, and we have George Kittle hurt already. I mean, if this keeps going on, this ends up easily being a top 5 tight end in football. And I mean, he's got the tight end 3 kind of ceiling here just with his usage here. So I'm really excited about him. You get him regular fantasy redraft, like 10th, 11th tight end off the board. Him and Colston Loveland was a big comparison. And I mean, right now, Tyler Warren just looks like that dude right out of the gate. So really excited about him. And then one of my dislikes is just how bad Miami looks already. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Especially my biggest worry is Devon Achane. We talk about, these PPR scams. Week 1 against the Colts, if it wasn't for the touchdown that he got late, I mean, we're already worried about Tyreek and him behaving or lack thereof. Jalen Waddle last year disappeared. He didn't show back up week 1. So I'm really worried about how quick things are going to get ugly for Miami, and especially Devon Achane. He was a really high, in regards to Dynasty, just because he can get there both ways, people thought. But I mean, if it's going to be this bad, he's not going to get there. So I'm really worried about Miami and Devon Achane, especially just that offense.
I know on the Diehards pod, when Doug and I did our Avoids episode, when I did my first run through, I had 4 Dolphins on my list. And I was like, oh, maybe I should diversify. But
no.
Yeah, man, I didn't draft anybody from that offense. Ugly.
I picked up a little bit of Devon Achane just because of the PPR portion of the program. I didn't draft Tyreek. I didn't draft Waddle. But even before the season started, I was kind of regretting spending so high on Achane. And if it wasn't for the touchdown last week, I mean, they're already missing, I believe, 2 offensive linemen are hurt. So it just, if it wasn't bad enough, it is just getting a whole lot worse, and it's not going to get any better from here. So who do you like and dislike this from week 1, JJ?
Well, I know this is going to be a homer episode because this is a Jets and Penn State podcast, but I was so effing encouraged by the Jets' performance against the Steelers. Fields, Hall, and Wilson all looked good. Fields in particular seems like he's taken a step. Knock on wood, but the Steelers are a tougher defense. He was patient. He moved well in the pocket. He would step up. I liked what I saw across the board from all 3 of their star players. And I'm just hoping it keeps going. I was very happy. Now, as far as my didn't like, I'm also going to stick with the Jets because I preached all offseason about Braylon Allen not being explosive. All I heard is that Breece is going to get traded. Allen's going to be the RB1. And then he goes out and he sucks. He had 6 carries for 9 yards. Now, granted, he had a touchdown, which was an 8-yard touchdown. Quick do the math. Yes, that means he had 5 carries for 1 yard. Excellent. He's not explosive. He sucks. For the love of God, please use Isaiah Davis, who had 2 carries for 18 yards. That's what you need on the field, not Braylon lumbering ass Allen out there.
It's kind of weird seeing the Jets have a competent offense. I know they lost, but as far as losses go, it just seemed very encouraging. Yeah. The way they use Justin Fields, I think, is the way that a lot of coordinators should have before. I mean, TJ Watt was on his heels the entire afternoon, just the way they're running the RPO and all that stuff. So I hope it keeps up. I mean, it's encouraging. I think Breece Hall looked pretty explosive. I know we had the worries and that stuff. You hope that it gets a little more of the workload, a little less Braylon Allen, and a little more Breece Hall. But I'm encouraged even in a loss for the Jets, and I hope it keeps up this entire year.
Me too. I was not sad at all. I mean, I wish they would have won. I wish Rodgers would have got his, well, whatever. But
it's about as good as you can feel after a loss.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm thinking like Dan Campbell's first year in Detroit. All right, gentlemen. Let's kick into tonight's game. It is Washington Commanders at the Green Bay Packers. Washington is 1-0 coming off their 21-6 rout. The Giants. Green Bay is 1-0 after destroying the Lions last week. The weather in Green Bay is perfect tonight, 60s. Beautiful
Well, that's a
weather.
nice change from last week.
Yeah, no rain in the forecast. Nice. Now, last week, before we get into the lines and props here, we did not do well. Sorry about that. Joe and I went 2-4. JMO. We're not going to talk about JMO.
I just want
no.
I just want to say one thing real quick. Before the weather delay, every prop was going to get there. And I'm not complaining. I'm not like boo-booing. The points were flying. Everybody was scoring. Everybody was moving up and down the field. They go in the weather delay. They do not score another point after the fact. So
Carolina and Jacksonville, too, was looking a lot better before their weather delay.
yeah, so we will be better in all three phases: offense, special teams, defense. And
Speak for yourself.
Well, I'm gonna try my
I'm
best.
terrible at this.
I'm
All right,
I'm
so
try.
let's talk about the line, gentlemen. Packers are giving 3.5 points with an over-under again of 48.5. Now, we do have a question from before we give our picks. Packers money line. So straight up, who are we taking in this game?
Just came out that the Packers are going to be down 2 offensive linemen.
Ooh.
So that is a.
Which ones?
I think it's Zach Tom and Aaron Banks. So the right tackle and their left guard. So I was leaning Packers money line before. I don't know. Well, I mean, we'll get into it here in a minute because I do think the Commanders' offensive line going up against Micah Parsons and the gang doesn't look very appealing either. But I think I'm still going to lean Green Bay, but that's definitely concerning. That just dropped within the last 15 minutes here.
Gotcha.
So, taking into account the 3.5 points, where are you going? Which way are you leaning, JMO?
I would lean the Commanders to cover. So
Commanders to cover. What about the over-under?
What is the over-under?
48.5.
I will lean. I'll lean the over. I will lean the over.
All right. Joe, what about you?
I'm opposite of JMO on both of those. I think the Packers cover. I get they're down 2 linemen, but the weakest spot of this Washington team is their defensive line. Deron Payne had 2 sacks last week, but they were very empty calories. Dorrance Armstrong is their only edge rusher of note. Not super worried there. And Micah Parsons, I think, is going to eat them alive. Dude's good. I don't think he's not one of those guys you should probably trade.
Man, you would think.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have
Crazy
to
to trade.
agree. I'm going with the under. I'm always an optimist and go with the over, and I'm always wrong. So I'm going with Green Bay and the under.
I feel like these Thursday night games, and I don't have data to back this up, but they feel like they're always lower scoring.
Yes.
Minus that one, like with that Rams Chiefs game a few years ago was Thursday night, I think, but feels like they're lower.
All right. Well, let's lean into some prop bets now so we can get into what we think is going to happen in the game. JMO, what are some of the prop bets you want to talk about tonight?
The first one, just talked about Jordan Love here. Over under 240.5 passing yards. I was definitely leaning towards the over before the news of the 2 guys being out on the offensive line. But, I mean, it just depends on how you feel on the other side. Do you think that the Commanders can keep up with the Green Bay offense, which seems like they're going to try to run the ball? So, I mean, we'll kick it off here with Jordan Love. I feel like we're dropping a big news bomb and just kind of changing a little bit of the trajectory of everything. So 240.5 passing yards here for Jordan Love. I'm going to lean the under. I mean, he only hit over 246 times last year. And especially with the 2 guys out, I'm going to lean the under here. But you guys think that changes anything as far as Jordan Love and his passing yards go?
I was leaning under anyway, so that news just makes me lean harder. What about you, Joe?
I think I'm there as well. I think it could be a 220-yard, 2-touchdown game for him. But these Thursday nights are weird.
Yeah. So, and then on the other side here, Jaden Daniels over under 230.5 passing yards. So, I mean,
Okay.
what kind of math are we doing here? What are you thinking in your head?
I'm thinking he didn't have a lot of passing yards last week.
233.
I think Green Bay's defensive line might eat tonight. No crumbs. So I'm going the under. I think his rushing yardage might be higher than last week, but I think passing yards will be under.
Joe, what do you think?
Again, I'm going to be contrarian and actually go the over. I think they're going to be down for a vast majority of this game. And with how good the pass rush is, I think Jaden Daniels is going to have to throw the ball quicker. He's not going to be able to get around Micah Parsons. Apparently, Lucas Van Ness is good now. So, going to need to throw the ball a little more, catch up a bit.
What are you going to do, J-Mo?
I'm going to go over here. I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. Ja'Cory Krosky, Merritt, Big Bill, very patient runner. I thought it was some of the stuff that he saw or he did last week was pretty interesting with, the offense at the running. But I just think Jaden Daniels just going to try to throw it. Deebo Samuel looked really good last week. Terry McLaurin kind of was a ghost, but I mean, we'll see here. But over 230 yards, I think that Jaden can do it. So as far as running backs go, Josh Jacobs, who seems like Mr. Consistent, I believe he has scored a touchdown the last 9 games, going for his 10th game, but over under 77.5 rushing yards here. So last week against the Commanders, I know it was the New York Giants, but the Commanders really swallowed up Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterbo. So I think I'm going to lean the under here, but it's week 1. I feel like everything's pretty dicey. JJ, as far as over under 77.5 yards for Josh Jacobs down 2 offensive line. How are you feeling about that?
I think I'm going to tell you. I'm going with the under. I think Jacobs will have a touchdown, possibly 2, but I don't think it's going to be because he's piling up like 120 yards. So I'm going under 77.5.
What about you, Joe?
I think I'm on the same page there.
So everybody's, if the boat sinks, all of us go down together, huh? Instead of me just being stranded on the little
like the Billy Joel song.
There you go.
Old reference.
So, and then leaning into 2 wide receivers before we get out of the prop bets globe here. Terry McLaurin last week was basically a dud, over under 51.5 yards. Every time he has played Green Bay, he has scored a touchdown and he's lit their ass up. So over under 51. I'm going to go the over here, especially Jaden Daniels. I think that they're just going to not even going to bother running the ball. I think they're going to try to win through the air tonight. So I think Terry McLaurin sets up for a really nice game, and I'm going to bet the over 51.5. So
Ditto.
All right, we got Ditto. That was easy.
I am going the under. I don't know.
T-Bone instead?
I don't know if you guys are ass men, but data fantasy points does their average separation score. Terry came in 152nd last week. Now, I'm not a mathematician. That doesn't sound
That's
good.
me.
Yeah, you're the mathematician. So I don't know. I don't know if he's washed. I don't think he's washed, but I think not practicing holding in affects older receivers more. So until I see it, I'm not buying it, JMO. I'm going the under.
There we go. So last one here, rookie sensation himself, Matthew Golden. His line for receiving yards is 35.5. So I think I'm going to lean the over here. Dan Quinn has been very susceptible on defense to giving up the big play. That's what they brought in Matthew Golden to do. So I'm going to lean the over here for 35.5. I think it's pretty low, especially we talked about the 2 offensive linemen down. I think that hurts Josh Jacobs more than anybody. But do you guys have any belief in Matthew Golden? Last week did not look good. They still had that Packers rotation that everybody is pissed off about. But what do you guys think
newly
about
extended Christian Watson?
Yep. I mean, he's not playing, but we'll give him money. That makes a lot of sense.
I'm going with the under. Last week, he ran 10 routes. He had a 43.5 route participation, fantasy points. Man, out of all the usage, he didn't have much. So I don't know. I don't see it happening for him.
Yeah, I'm with JJ there. I know they kind of blew the Lions out, but 23 total snaps, 14 passing snaps with 10 routes run. I'm just not. It's a low line, so it really only takes one play here, but I kind of need to see a little more. And Romeo Doubs looked really good last week.
The big thing was Tucker Kraft. I mean, Tucker Kraft, even though the stat line wasn't the greatest, I mean, as far as the offense, the only thing that seems reliable outside of Josh Jacobs ends up being Tucker Kraft here. So, but that is it for the prop bets for this game. Hopefully, we do a lot better than last week. I'm going to put that in existence that we do. But for anybody out there who is planning on winning their fantasy football league this year, if you're wanting to become the king of or queen of your league, that'd be me. I always want to be the king of the fantasy football leagues. It's hard to show that the champ is here without a specialty ring, trophy, or belt. So use Fantasy and Frames 10 to get 10% off anything they have in stock. Belts, rings, trophies, you name it, they've got it. Head over to trophysmack.com. Fantasy and Frames 10 gives you 10% off, and grab yourself something you deserve for being the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be at fantasy football.
What would Stone Cold say when he had the belt?
Give me a hell yeah. Or he'd give you the double bird, kick you in the balls, and give you Stone Cold Stunner.
Nice.
He didn't really ever discriminate on who you were or what you meant. I mean, he beat up the boss, it seemed like every Monday for about a year and a half straight. So,
well, sometimes bosses deserve that. Now, since this is a dynasty show, we are going to pick either a player or a position group that we are watching for our dynasty rosters. This is called the Dynasty Perspective. Now, last week we each picked something, so we're going to revisit what we were watching and see how it turned out. For me, I wanted to know what the Eagles' passing attack would look like and if there was any hope for a wide receiver 3. I guess Jahan Dotson is the wide receiver 3. But with A.J. Brown getting 1 target and Devonta 3, I'm not sure if any of this is clearer than it was at the beginning of last week.
it's a little goofy with just how the Eagles' offense in general looked. It seems like they get a new offensive coordinator every year, and then it just somehow the offense looks the exact same. It just ends up Jalen Hurts kind of running around, throwing the ball away. Your wide receiver that you drafted somehow is not getting any targets. You get Dallas Goedert, gets hit over the middle a couple times, and then they run the ball and win the game. And it seems like absolutely nothing has changed for the Eagles' offense. Kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. JMO, what was your question going into last week?
I just wanted to see how involved Will Shipley was going to be, where Saquon Barkley was coming off the big workload in 2024. Seemed like Will Shipley had a little bit going on. I mean, he was on the field a couple times, and then, of course, he gets hurt. He's got an oblique injury, and then they signed Tank Bigsby from Jacksonville. They traded for him. So now, somebody who I was really excited about in dynasty leagues, just for the thought process of if Saquon got hurt, or if he ended up like the Kenny Gainwell role, where he'd get a little bit of something. And of course, they bring in Tank Bigsby. They say he's going to be a returner, but I mean, he's obviously going to work into the workload a little bit now. So, really frustrating as a Will Shipley owner. I just thought the outcome was just right there, and he gets hurt. They bring in somebody who, I mean, beginning of training camp, all throughout it, people thought that Tank Bigsby might be the running back 1 in Jacksonville. So he ends up behind Saquon. I don't think it totally buries Will Shipley, but it is really frustrating the run out he's had so far within 60 minutes of football.
Yeah,
I think Shipley will probably have the same role as he was going to have, but I know a lot of the hope was if Barkley missed time, he would just take over, and now it's a two-headed monster if he does.
Pretty ugly.
Yeah. Question in the chat. PPR, Kraft versus Andrews. Who are we taking this week?
Kraft by a lot.
Yeah, Kraft too.
Or Andrews did not have a target, correct?
He had one.
Yeah.
One.
He had points.
Mark Andrews has turned into a touchdown or bust tight end at the moment. He ran really hot to end the year
this week.
He ran that, like, he had a really good run out towards the end of the year last year. But I mean, Kraft, his workload just looking a lot better, more involved in the offense. He's probably the best receiver for Green Bay right now, the way it kind of seems, that rotation. So I'd go with Tucker Kraft. I think he's got probably a higher floor and honestly a higher ceiling right now than Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I think Kraft's the top 6 tight end play the rest of the year, especially now with Kittle out for the next couple weeks. Andrews, I don't think you should cut right now. Just tight end could be weird. Zay Flowers was running wide open all week, but I don't think you can start him at this point.
All right, Joe, what was your fantasy question last week?
I went on the IDP side and was curious about the Cowboys edge room with a certain really good pass rusher who may or may not be playing tonight, no longer on the team.
Not familiar. I
No?
don't follow.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And I'm not talking Dorrance Armstrong, who also is a former Cowboy now that I think about it.
I
But-
love Dorrance Armstrong.
He's such a good edge too. But
He is.
He is. But Sam Williams ended up leading the room in snaps. But my guy, Marshawn Nealon, who was my hope would break out, was the one who was the best player. Was a borderline edge 2 for fantasy leagues last week. I think he was tied for 21st in points amongst defensive ends, edge players. Per PFF, he was a top 30 overall edge and a top 12 against the run. He added a sack as well of Jalen Hurts, and we need him to get some snaps up, but dominance against the run, which is what we expected from him coming out, even though he was raw. But if he can continue to put together some of that pass rush plan, he has the edge 18 potential in him.
So, what is your dynasty perspective for this week? What are you looking for, Joe?
What am I looking for this week? I'm sticking IDP, and I just want to know, Quay Walker, do we believe in him? I personally don't. I wrote an article for Fantasy and Frames earlier this summer that said he was a dynasty faller. In week 1, he was the linebacker 13 overall. He had 9 tackles. But looking in, again, his metrics honestly sucked. And PFF's database, out of 97 or 100 linebackers, depending on the category, he was 67th amongst them against the run, 71st in tackling, 55th in coverage. Edgerrin Cooper
That's not great, Jim.
Bad. Cooper did allow 8 catches on 8 targets, but for like 25 yards. Gibbs had 10 catches for 30 yards and a weird line. Most of those were against Cooper, who, if you allow a catch and tackle the guy in 3 yards, I don't really care. He's still at a high coverage grade. Walker has been bad in coverage. He's a good athlete, but doesn't know what to do with it. He's been a nightmare on the field in terms of decisions made. Again, a big part of my reasoning is if he's a headache on the field and rough on the field, like, do we want to keep going? Isaiah McDuffie his metrics for the past 3 years have been just as good as Walker's, and that continued last week. But I don't want to believe in him, but the fact that he did get 100% of snaps with Cooper is telling. If that continues this week, I think we might have to have a conversation about Walker being a potential top 20 linebacker for Dynasty again.
Just because of playing time.
Hey, sometimes it's better for fantasy to be a bad linebacker on the field.
Oh, yeah. Let the guy catch the ball and then tackle him.
Yeah. Great measure for success.
All right, J-Mo. What about you?
So for this week, as far as dynasty perspectives, because I did Will Shipley for last week, so we're moving to this week. I just want to clarify. I've got Deebo Samuel. I want to see if last week's work ends up being sticky. Compared 10 targets in his debut for the Commanders compared to Terry McLaurin's 4. Finished today with 77 yards and a touchdown, and he had one of those Deebo Samuel carries for 19 yards. I just last year he had pneumonia. Everybody made fun of him, called him Fat Deebo, and I mean he comes out in his Commanders debut and looks like he's kind of working into Terry McLaurin's workload. I mean, last year Terry McLaurin scored a bunch of touchdowns. He was basically the only wide receiver for the Commanders. So I just want to see if Deebo Samuel is just a 1 week thing. If this is a guy that you could start every week, is he a target on a matchup type of thing. I'm just kind of curious to see where Deebo Samuel is. He's 29 years old. I still think he has value in Dynasty. I know a lot of the people always want to ship off these kind of players, but I mean, Washington Commanders is a top 10 offense. They've got a really good quarterback. Just made it to the NFC Championship. So I just want to see how much they keep using Deebo Samuel and just see the reliability for him as commander on a new team.
All right. I like that. Now, we do have a question from the crowd. PPR pick 2. Deebo, Pickens, Ridley, Odunze.
Hmm.
Deebo, Pickens, Ridley, Odunze.
Who is Dallas playing?
Playing the Giants.
Giants.
I'm going Deebo.
Think off last week, it's hard not to pick Deebo.
I would probably lean Deebo and George Pickens. I think the usage last week for Dallas, I know that Dak Prescott didn't get there, and then CeeDee Lamb had some drops and stuff, but they line up against the Giants this week. Secondary's not that great, and I think that George Pickens can have a really big game. So Calvin Ridley gets the Rams this week, and then I believe the Bears face the Lions. Yep. So Calvin Ridley had some drops, so I'm going to say Deebo and George Pickens, but I've got the George Pickens bias here as well. So,
yeah, I think for me, it would be Deebo and either Pickens or O'Dunes. Ridley, I mean, that can't, the Tennessee offense didn't look very exciting at all. So, yeah, I think I'm going to lean Pickens. Just because of J-Mo's love.
I'm going to go with Deebo and Ridley here. Ridley's the clear top guy. Ward, the completion percentage wasn't great, but the Rams, as we talked about, their D line is great. But the Titans' offensive line is an upgrade over Houston. Ward has a little more playmaking to him, getting outside the pocket, I should say. Ridley's the top guy, and do you know who the top corner for the Rams is? Because I can guarantee they're not close to the level of Pat Surtain or Riley Moss or Jay Barron.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So I think Ridley has a chance. I think it could be a 3 of 10 for 70 yards sort of deal, but I would go Ridley. I'd go Ridley and Deebo there. I really don't think you can go wrong here. I think all 4
definitely go with Deebo, and then it's dealer's choice on the rest. All right, my fantasy perspective. All offseason, we heard that the Packers wide receiver room is a nightmare to predict. In week 1, Love targeted Jaden Reed 5 times. Kraft and Dubs each received 4. Wicks and Golden had 2 apiece. I really want to see, as you said, J-Mo, is the pecking order sticky? Is this what we're going to see? Jaden Reed getting the most, like then Dubs, Kraft, Wicks, and Golden in that order. Because what we're afraid of is that each week it's like throwing dice into a Yahtzee cup and you don't know who's going to end up with the 6 all the way down to the 1. So for me, that's what I'm keeping an eye on tonight. Any thoughts on that, Joe?
I don't know. I also want to see how it holds up. My thought is that Kraft and Reed kind of take over, but I thought Reed actually looked pretty okay. But
considering his foot injury,
yeah, especially with that. But yeah, it's such a tough room to see. Kraft is the one I feel best about, as we've said. But yeah, I'd bet on Reed, but it's probably going to be wrong a lot.
All right. J-Mo, any thoughts?
I'd say Kraft as well, but I'm leaning into the rookie Matthew Golden. It just sometimes these guys take time, and I just think he ends up being probably more of the boom or bust guy, but I think he's got the highest ceiling out of all these guys. And I think that, when Jordan Love is at his best, they do the play action, he throws that big bomb off the back foot, and it's like the real pretty ball, and it just lands right into Matthew Golden's hands. So that's I know week 1 was not promising. I know, especially being on the field, that's the biggest part of having opportunity in fantasy football. But I think that'll come for Matthew Golden. I wish he'd quit doing the ring around the rosy portion with the receivers, but I mean that just seems like that is their game plan always. But I'm still going to lean Matthew Golden here.
All right, let's finish up with the Devy Corner. Joe, who is the Devy Player of the Week who we should keep on our short list for upcoming drafts?
I did a brief overview of quarterbacks last week, and one of those guys is the guy for this week, John Mateer, formerly of Wazoo, now with Oklahoma. Put on another show against Michigan last week. Has some shades of Baker Mayfield, not nearly as accurate. Significantly, he is the athlete Baker thinks he is, but there's a stat that I think 14 of Mateer's 16 starts, he has a passing and rushing touchdown. It's either 12 of 14 or 14 of 16, but he has a passing and a rushing touchdown. He's a really good runner. He's strong, even though he's a smaller guy. He's built very well, is powerful, has a big time arm. I think he's someone who has a legitimate chance, if he can keep this up and survive through SEC play, of being a first round pick. So Mateer's currently my quarterback 4, 3 if you don't include Arch Manning. And I think I'm really a fan of this guy. Then also want to give a quick shout out to the Illinois Duke game. It ended up a blowout. However, that's one of the matchups between non-powerhouse teams that's going to have a lot of NFL talent. My guy Darian Mensah, who's my quarterback 2, if you don't include Manning. A couple edge ruckers, Gabe Akis, Duke's guy who's Victor Anthony, I think his name is. Ardell Anthony, the receiver for Duke. Olin Kreutz's kid is Illinois center, which is weird, but
wow,
yeah,
that makes you feel
there's a lot of guys on the defensive line for Illinois, and a lot of potential day 2 picks. Luke Altmaier for Illinois, I think, is a good high-end backup for the NFL. So that's a game that has a lot of NFL talent that you wouldn't think so off the top.
All right. Well, Brandon Hallam says that the Texas GM saw that Stroud had completions on 90% of his pressures and thought he should make sure he gets pressured every snap to help him out. You know, Brandon, that's a good point. We should look at the positive side and not be so negative. Gentlemen, it is time to let the good people know where they can find you. And any final thoughts? J-Mo?
Well, before just add on to the Stroud stuff, diamonds are built under pressure, so maybe that's why they are doing that to CJ Stroud. So, but find me on the Twitter machine at Jameson Rules, and have a YouTube now for my DFS shows on Sundays at Jameson Hutchison. You can go over there and check that out with Joel Worth. Try to help you win some money in the DFS portion of the program for FanDuel and DraftKings, and then just here every Thursday. So 6 o'clock Central Time. I always get that screwed up, but 7 Eastern, 6 Central, here on Twitter machine and Discord on YouTube. You can find me. I'm not hard to find.
Absolutely
Thankfully
not.
so.
Joe?
You can find me on the social medias at JoeLow63. I am writing the Plays and Fades IDP version for Fantasy and Frames this year, which should be dropping relatively soon for this week. Deron Payne as a sit is a bonus name that I just didn't get to in time since the article won't release. But, well, it was until Packers O-linemen were out. So ignore me in that. I'm happy that did not get published. Stay safe out there and remember to brush and floss.
I am at JJ Wenner on Blue Sky. Thank you, Joe Jameson and the crew at Fantasy and Frames. We are back next week to preview the Dolphins at Bills game, which is at 7. We are coming on at 7 p.m. live again. Is there a Discord link?
I am dropping that into the chat right now. I believe it is a free Discord.
Yep.
There you go, brother.
Trying to drop the link right now. It should be in the description otherwise.
As always, love yourself. Know your worth. You are enough. Boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks.